Canada is a nation run by criminals for criminals. There comes a point where government waste stops looking like incompetence and starts looking like treason. Canada has long passed that point. What we are witnessing now is not mere mismanagement or bureaucratic drift. It is the systemic looting of a nation by the people meant to serve it. Billions vanish with no oversight, no accountability, and no shame. The numbers have grown so grotesque that one struggles not to call this what it is: organized theft. The state tells us its creed is responsible governance, yet almost every act defies that claim. What we have instead is a system run by well-dressed operators who treat the public purse as their own. So, seeing all of this, Canada is now a nation run by criminals for criminals. What scandals illuminate this uncomfortable truth?
What era do we want to look at? If we just kind of look over the last 5-10 years, I mean, the big ones under Trudeau would have been the We Charity scandal, where they were funneling money to, his wife and other people were getting paid to do these performances and these shows. They were getting paid exorbitant amounts of money that made no sense for market rates. And then there was just a lot of favoritism going back and forth there. You had the SNC-Lavalin scandal, which was contracts. What's their name now? I forget. SNC-Lavalin. They changed their name. So anyway, they were getting billions of dollars worth of contracts, and there was obviously kickbacks going back and forth. And Trudeau tried to get the Raybould to sort of squash it and not really give them any trouble. That whole scandal was a bit of a mess. And then SNC-Lavalin was, I think they were barred from contracts, but they ultimately changed their name and now they get billions more in contracts, of course. One of them that I don't think a lot of people pay attention to is the Canada Infrastructure Bank. So this we built this Canadian Infrastructure Bank to scale federal infrastructure projects, which are usually done at the provincial level. Basically, we lit $50 billion on fire and did nothing at all. The Green Slush Fund, that's a little more recent. That's what shut down government essentially last October. October 2024, which left us closed for almost 8 months, I think you'd said, right? That was at least $300 million that we know was, I don't know, just disappeared into corruption. And then I think you can touch on the Liberal COVID procurement, which was absolute robbery. We're signing on for all these vaccines. We're paying billions and billions of dollars. We're printing billions and billions of dollars. And we're just giving it away to pharma companies. And we're not even using these vaccines. The list goes on. I mean, right now, what I would even talk about is how we're currently selling our natural resources off. I know it's a little different, but it's going to shake out the same way, how we're allowing these other countries right now, the UAE, but we're looking at China, Germany, India, and we're not just bringing in their capital to help boost our GDP. We're bringing in their capital so they can own and influence our natural resources and major assets. So, I mean, I'm sure you've got more.
Yeah, let's pile on to that. So you've got the recent one, which was Stellantis, where Ottawa handed them a $15 billion contract, their subsidy, the largest in Canadian history. And Melanie Joly, the industry minister, didn't even read the contract before approving it.
In fairness, I'm not sure she can read, so let's give her a little leeway here.
And then this was also around the same time that Stellantis shifted their Jeep productions down to the US. Then you've also got the Stellantis execs refusing to go in front of a parliamentary hearing, which if you're receiving that much in Canadian taxpayer dollars, I don't think you have an option. Like, how is that not criminal at that point? Then you've also got Honda receiving major subsidies without full Treasury Board review, Volkswagen hiding its cost estimates while they were getting subsidies. Then you've got Northvolt being showered with subsidies and then going bankrupt afterwards. Also, on top of that, you've got this more recent one as well with the LNG firm. Carney was running headlines about this a couple weeks ago. Oh, this massive new project, right? We're greenlighting LNG and natural gas out in BC. First of all, it was a project that was already in the works, but the major partner in that is an American firm, and then the actual vessel itself, the LNG machinery that they're going to be using is going to be made in Korea and Japan and then floated over to BC. So you've got Canadian taxpayers subsidizing a project that is creating jobs in Korea or Japan, and then American firms are the main profiters off of this. So it's like, where's the Canadian taxpayer return here?
Probably using Chinese ships to ship. Yeah. Like, what are we doing, guys?
The other one too was Telestat. Now that was a loan. It was a $2.14 billion loan,
but with no
strings attached.
Yeah, it's like you don't actually have to do anything.
Yeah, they were in the contract. There was no so the whole thing was, okay, you're gonna create a satellite internet infrastructure to provide rural Canadians with access to the internet. But there was no obligation to connect a single home in the contract, no penalties for failure, no clawbacks if the project collapses, and no enforced timelines. It's now 3 years since that deal was made.
Oh wow, it's been 3 years since that happened?
Yeah, dude, we're in a time warp.
Wow. That's crazy.
And then at the same time too, while they were handing that to Telestat, they were completely overlooking Musk in Starlink, despite already having the infrastructure, many Canadians already using it, and it being ready to go. Musk said he could have done it for half the cost.
They did it because they don't like him.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is so much worse. It's like, well, we're emotional about this guy, so fuck that, Canada. What?
Right. And two, you look at it and, okay, so they say one of the other, obviously it was more ideological and they just didn't want to give Musk any more business. But even to, okay, if that's your argument, then you can't use the whole BC LNG thing where you've got an American firm partnered with them.
Of course. Well, those are the good Americans that we like.
Yeah.
Maybe they voted Democrat. That's what they're saying. A hooky doke.
Also, fun fact, actually, one of the guys that is involved in that project was a major Epstein link, and Epstein funded his entire projects, which is, just a fun little side note there.
Nice.
Then you've got ArriveCan, the $54 million app that should have cost $80,000, and most of that money went into a firm with just a few people, and that admitted they didn't actually even do any work on the app. And then actually,
a firm that received hundreds of millions of dollars, in fact, for several projects while Trudeau was in office.
I remember that there was that one article that, like, the piece on GC strategies. It wasn't like an investigative piece, but it was I can't remember what media outlet did it, but it was like, this little firm is one of the quickest growing businesses.
Yeah, it's like they're winning awards for one of the fastest growing companies in the country while just siphoning government dollars in and doing nothing for us. Wonderful. A+.
And then and actually the most recent example that just came out over the last few days is the Algoma Steel scandal, where I think it was they received, what was it, $500 million? Yeah, $500 million. And then now they're laying off 1,000 steel workers.
Right. I think ultimately the reality here is, like, there's a lot of scandals that are in front of us, that we see that are in front of the curtain, I should say. There are significantly more behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you and I talk about this. I mean, you had, I forget whose theory it was, or maybe it wasn't just a theory, it was just a calculation, that 40% of every dollar that goes to government just goes to bureaucratic waste.
Joe Carson, Diagnosis Red Tape. He was he used to work for the Saskatchewan government.
Right, so 40% of all dollars that go to the government go to waste anyway. And I'm of the mind that another 30 to 40% go to corruption, go to buying votes. So ultimately, like, and I understand that I've sort of made a bit of a leap on the additional 40%, but I think you can make the argument pretty strong there, where it's like, hey, look, 70 to 80% of every dollar spent in the government is pretty much lit on fire. And I think it's good to sort of see it through that lens, because the only way we sort of correct course here is if we start demanding some accountability and using this filter or these baseline projections that we have to forecast, because they're not giving us the information, as kind of our proxy to be like, okay, if you're going to correct course, here's where we think things are at. You need to improve from this point. Here's what our expectations are. And I mean, I'm not super optimistic that we get there, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah. And, I hear when we talk about this kind of stuff, a lot of people will say how there's a revolt needed, or a revolution, or whatever, that you need to overthrow them, that you can't vote your way out of this. But now, I think there's a flaw in that, and that's why I don't ever call for it. First of all, because I think if you don't know what a revolution actually looks like, I highly suggest you go watch them. I know you like to think that it's probably just, it's going to be directed towards the people I don't like, but it's really just everybody and anybody. Like, if you look at the French Revolution, it was just random people ending up on that guillotine. But anyways, Václav Havel pointed this out in regards to totalitarian systems, because I do believe we are living in one, which the difference between a dictatorship and a totalitarian society is that in dictatorships, people know they're being ruled. The rulers do it much more through force. It's open military. It's, if you oppose our rule, then you're going to go face against the wall. And everybody knows this reality. The difference with a totalitarian system is they don't have to actually use open force, because it's a lie has permeated society to such a deep degree that people aren't even aware of what's going on. And so it's kind of like the Matrix in the sense where if you try to attack the system, like in that famous first scene where Morpheus is walking Neo through it, he says, like, these people don't understand they're part of a system, and they will actually fight you, even though you're the one trying to save them, if you oppose it. And it's true. So even if you were to say, try to rise up against the government in this scenario, then all you're doing is actually giving them more justification to crack down. And everyone in society outside of that will look at that and go, yeah, I think these new measures, these new crackdown measures and limits on our freedom are a good thing, because we don't want that violence.
Yes.
And so that leaves you with one option. And this was Václav Havel's point, was that your only option in a totalitarian society is to expose the lie, because any other means will actually just end up hurting your own cause.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that. I think that's very well thought out. The challenge that we have here, and I know you see things very much the same way, is that they're taking away our opportunity to actually expose the lies. So we have these conversations, and it'd be nice if we were at a larger scale, but it is what it is. But we're suppressed. You and I go through these ebbs and flows through multiple, pretty much all the social media channels where we're doing well and we're not doing well. And the content's relatively similar. It's just a matter of how we're being positioned in the algorithm. That's definitely part of it. You've also got a number of bills, a lot of liberal policy. And the thing is they know what you're saying. There's a whole group of people that sit there and they just basically think of how they can maintain power and profit over the people. That's what they do. So they know the policy they need to implement. And it is stuff like, the Streaming Act, the News Act, Bill C8, Bill C9, which are the Internet Killer Bill. They can literally cut off your internet without any oversight. And the other one, where they're redefining hate speech in public spaces and signs and stuff like that. And Bill C36, if that comes to fruition, is the Online Harms Bill. And when you put this apparatus together, it really suppresses our opportunity to have these conversations at scale. So it can feel a little helpless sometimes. I agree, the reality of revolution is not the solution. I guess what I'm saying is we are also, though, sort of losing the opportunity to expose the lies. I think maybe the only way to do this at this point is if more people start speaking out. I think rather than just, hey, Jonathan and Liam, or people similar to us, I don't mean to just put it on us, can sort of continue to push this message of exposing the lies. But you need to multiply. You need not just the two of us, you need 2,000 of us. Then you need there to be 20,000 of us. And I think at that point, you may have a chance. Yeah. I think that's what it's going to take.
And actually, that was exactly Havel's point as well, is that like totalitarian systems don't collapse from force, but with a withdrawal of consent. And that if everybody stops pretending and enforcing the lie on one another, because it's also not just that the lie is coming from top down, it's that citizens lie to one another all of the time.
Of course.
So really, the best thing that any individual can do in that society is just I think it was actually Solzhenitsyn said that all you can do in a totalitarian society is say, I will not let these lies flow through me.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have to become a stop force for that.
Yeah. It's just the truth has to be your North Star. It's tough, but I think that's what it takes.